All right, folks, what we're going to do now is we're going to introduce our next speakers, and I'm very excited about this. So for our next talk, this is amplifying something that we very much believe in. As a community, we want to be sure that we're getting and hearing voices from all over the world. And you're going to notice that we have talks from Europe, from South America. So I'm really excited. We're going to have a team coming from us all the way from Zambia, Africa, on what are some of the unique challenges they're facing and how they're facing them. So I'm very excited to introduce virtually, and this is one of the advantages of virtual. We can bring in some amazing speakers from all over the world that we would most likely not be able to bring in person. So first, I'd like to introduce, we're going to have Dr. Freda Brazle join us and Mark Mondoka join us all the way from Africa. Folks, please, thank you so much. And we're very excited. And by the way, I know we went 5 minutes into your talk. We're going to give you an extra 5 minutes. So we'll go in 5 minutes into lunch. So there you go. Thank you so much. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Lance. Hi, everyone. So as been said, I'm based in Lusaka, Zambia, which is in Sub-Saharan Africa. For those familiar with the US, the size of Zambia is about the size of Texas and West Virginia combined. We have just over 17 million people, and the official language is English. Some of the key sectors, just to give a landscape of how the economy in Zambia works, one of the key sectors is tourism. And what you can see in the picture here is the Victoria Falls. The falls is 5,600 feet wide and has been the key mainstay in terms of driving tourism into the economy. One of the, obviously because of COVID, we've had a huge hit in terms of impact to the economy and performance. 30% of the country is reserved for wildlife, and we have 20 national parks and about 40 game reserves. Another key sector is mining. We are the 7th largest producer of copper in the world, and this accounts for 64% of the exports from the country. Agriculture is another key stake that we have. Just over half of the land in Zambia is classified as suitable for agriculture, and this accounts for 19% of our GDP. So with regards to the landscape around connectivity, we can see that the fixed internet subscriptions are pretty much corporate connections. The mobile internet subscriptions are data connections, like data plans from your cell service provider. And the delta between that and the 17 million, which is mobile subscriptions, are feature phones, which are used purely for voice, text, and any applications which sit on the cell provider's menu. Zambia is considered as a mobile-first economy. The majority of the people of the population work in the informal sector. You noticed in the second slide we said the population is just over 17 million, and we've got just about 17 million mobile subscribers. That's because we have a number of users who use more than one cell provider for their mobile numbers. So the true number is closer to 11 or 12 million, and the rest just have more than one SIM card. Now, the informal sector use their mobile devices for communication, logistics, savings, and even making peer-to-peer payments through a technology called mobile money. Mobile money is pretty much having your payments, saving features bundled with your mobile service provider. So think of it as AT&T having all of PayPal's functionality built into your mobile device. In 2019, we saw just over 500 million transactions and $2.3 billion in terms of transaction volumes. So it is a big market. With regards to cybersecurity and forensic requests, we see these falling into two major buckets, being individual and the enterprise. And across all these different requests that the regulators and law enforcement receive, fraud is actually the top incidence, followed by money laundering and trafficking and defamation. Looking at economic crimes, you can see that cybercrime for the region and for the country is ranked 6th. But when you look at activities around prevention, what we find is that only 49% of enterprises are actually actively engaged in vulnerability assessments, and only 29% have some form of cyber response plan in place. With regards to detection, it's an unfortunate situation, but it's also a huge opportunity. We've seen that IT is accounting for just about 3% of all detection. Internal tip-offs still top the charts in terms of incidents that are highlighted. What you see in the image here are what we call mobile money booths. These booths are used for what we call cash in and cash out transactions. Because of mobile money, which is basically an attempt to bank the unbanked, what happens is the people you see queuing up at these booths are either trying to withdraw cash to go and pay a merchant or deposit cash, which they've received from a transaction. The reason the booths exist in the ecosystem is because not all merchants are mobile money or digital currency ready. And so you find that people who save via this method still have to go and withdraw cash in order to purchase goods or services. And these account for the majority of the population. The key interest here is that these users are easy to target, cheap to target, and highly profitable. When we run a comparison between, we can easily do a global search for IT spend around cybersecurity services and investments in that space. But when we look at individual users, we find that the average spend is close to $0 in terms of protection. And when we look at the parallel between what's happening underground and even across the globe, on the dark web, we find that you could pay to have a Facebook account hacked for about $20, and a Gmail account will cost you somewhere between $25 and $90, which is why it's classified as cheap and profitable, because if somebody gets access to your messages or your email, that is access to the museum of your life. Basically, it's access to your personal information, your academic history, your professional history, any online services you access through your messaging or email platforms. And so what has happened is the individual has become a prime attack surface for Black hats in the area. We see a shift from malware sites to phishing sites across the globe. You could find this data in the Google Transparency Report. And looking at the 9 million smartphone users that we have locally, we find that majority of those are in the Android ecosystem. In the Android ecosystem, we find that of the harmful applications that can be installed on Android device, we find that just about 90% of them are spyware. So we have a lot of incidences of access being gained, unlawful access being gained to people's mobile devices through the applications installed through the Android ecosystem, partly because a lot of these applications are shared as APKs and not necessarily always downloaded through the Play Store. So among the common scenarios, we find SIM card replacements, ATM hacking, and SMS phishing to be the most aggressive. The automated teller machine hacking is pretty much the attackers putting a magnetic strip in the slot where you put in your card, and they read your details, and sometimes they'll have a camera or some kind of keylogger which actually captures your PIN, and you find people's accounts get drained that way. The SMS phishing scams are pretty much the text version of the Nigerian prince who wants to share his inheritance with you. The SIM card replacements are one thing which we will kind of touch on in a bit more detail. The SIM card has become the gateway to your mobile device. And the gateway from your mobile device to your email account, and your email account then connects to the rest of your additional services. So being a mobile first economy, we find that there is a key interest in being able to secure individuals' mobile devices, because once the individual is breached, then that becomes a gateway to reach their network and their organizations as well. Drawing closer, we find that most of the users, the 17 million we talked about at the beginning, we find that most of them don't even have an email account. So for them, the step really is just about breaching them through SMS, and which leaves them exposed to an even much higher risk, especially because their mobile phone is their bank. And once you're able to inject malicious software onto their phone or get their credentials via SMS, then you can pretty much have access to wipe their account. Looking at examples which connect to the local scene, we find that we have something called SIM port attacks. This is where an attacker gets your personal identifiable information. And what they do is they then spoof your cell service provider using your information to either get your SIM card upgraded, get it replaced because of theft. And what happens is your SIM card details are then ported to the attacker's device. Once this happens, they simply go through the two-factor authentication cycle via SMS to break into your email account, and then they're able to latch onto your services linked to your primary account. We've had a number of cases locally where this has been encountered, but even global scenarios, especially a number of cases where people's crypto wallets got cleaned out. And even some high-profile attacks like Jack Dorsey of Twitter, when his account was hacked, this is what was used. So some of the ways to mitigate these import attacks present opportunities, but challenges as well for the local landscape. One being that recommendations to use multi-sig wallets, some form of offline storage, ideally don't have idle funds sitting in your crypto. For the local scene around mobile money, that is their primary bank account. They don't have another account they can move those funds to. So that creates an extra challenge. Another option is to look at finding a broker service provider who has non-custodial accounts, where you get to control the keys, the private keys and the seed to your crypto, if that is what you are dealing in. The second is to move away from two-factor authentication as your last line of defense to maybe a voice option like Google Voice, getting a Google Voice phone number could work. Reducing our digital footprint. The museum of our lives is publicly available across the internet, so that increases our personal attack surface. And maybe getting us a secondary email account. Segmenting our accounts makes it a little easier for us to reduce or mitigate having a single point of failure with regards to one key email account, which links to all of our services. And offline password managers. On the enterprise space, it's the usual malicious software hacking, unauthorized access, and website defacement that we see. With regards to consumer protection initiatives, we do have a national toll-free line where people can call in and report any cybersecurity incident that happens via either their computer device or mobile phone. And with regards to the SIM porting, which we just looked at, what has been done is they've introduced an extra step, which is getting your facial capture. The driver behind this is to move to a process where anyone who wants their SIM card replaced, upgraded, or ported to a new card or new device needs to physically come in. And so that becomes the opportunity for them to match the person who's actually come in and the buyer information that they have on record. This is fairly new, so we're yet to have some background information in terms of just how secure the facial information is going to be. Around regulatory reform, we have the Computer Misuse Crimes Act. We have 3 additional bills which are in the works around child protection, personal data, and electronic business. We have the Zambia Information and Communication Technology Agency, which basically performs assessments and incident response for most of the public sector institutions across the country. They do also perform a regulatory role for all information and communication technology services and service providers in the country. They also carry out inspections for any Zambian critical information, which is held on international databases. Some awareness programs to try and help mitigate the impact of some of these risks that we have on the ground are facilitated through engaging civil society organizations, government institutions, and religious groups. Part of this is to leverage the high trust factor which is associated with these groups. The challenges are the technology, having the devices, being able to secure systems, especially for individual users, regulation which matches the shifts in terms of the usage and personal use across devices, especially when people can make peer-to-peer payments, but also have the high risk of being compromised, and the capacity to enforce the rules. Some of the solutions, technology has been introduced into the curriculum. This started just 2 years ago. We have a number of computer technology training programs which are being run around communities and community training centers and community schools, and also a push to get key technology stakeholders involved in various awareness campaigns. So there's a lot of institutions which are engaged with Zambia in terms of supporting cybersecurity activities and events. This skews heavily on the enterprise side, but we thought we could also just highlight some of the risks and growth areas and opportunities for services, service providers, partners within the region. And this is also a segue for the AGA, which Freda is going to talk more about.
Thank you so much, Mark, and good afternoon, good evening, and good morning, depending on where you are. My name is Freda Mwamba-Brazle. I'm actually real close to Victoria Falls, walking distance to the Victoria Falls in Livingston. I'm going to share with you what Zambia is doing to respond to the emerging risks around cybercrimes. I will share with you a little bit about the Attorney General Alliance. I will share with you my role, talk to you a little bit about what courses are offered, how we offer the courses, and then I'll leave you with some golden nuggets that you can work with. So the Attorney General Alliance is between attorney generals, federal, state, and foreign officials, and public and private sector partners throughout the world. And what we're doing is working with local experts in Zambia, as well as local experts that come outside of Zambia from the United States primarily, to really improve capacity planning. And we work in collaboration with several African ministers of justice, with solicitors general, public prosecution agencies, states, and non-states. And what we're really trying to do is share knowledge. And what we currently have is knowledge around 7 areas of expertise that you see on the slide, from countering corruption, combating human trafficking, anti-wildlife trafficking, anti-counterfeit drugs, anti-money laundering, gender-based violence, and more importantly, based on our discussion for today, cybercrime. So the way that we work in Zambia with our stakeholders is we really facilitate a lot of digital forensic. We have brought in experts that are digital currency coordinators. We're really looking to understanding how we can improve our overall information protection and minimize the number of crimes that are surfacing around cybercrimes. And we have joint programs that are pulled together. Now, we operate, the Attorney General Alliance operates in 8 countries in Africa, that is in Ghana, in Kenya, in Rwanda, Uganda, South Africa, Nigeria, Malawi, and Zambia. And we've had several requests for training. I'm sorry, if you could go back 1 slide, please. We've had several requests for training, and I want to share with you like some of the information that we provide is really bringing in the experts, identifying what some of our local legislation as well as rules are, and really understanding the context within which our cybercrime events are occurring. And then we build a curriculum that is custom to the scope of work that identifies the gaps in cybercrime awareness and understanding. And we then conduct and co-facilitate training between our experts that typically will fly in and our local experts. Over here was actually pictures that we took on a cybercrime workshop that we had. And it was important for us, we draw in from the different facilitations and institutions such as the Zambia Police. We draw in from the Zambia Information and Communications Technology Authority, as well as the Financial Intelligence Center, because we recognize that the amount of knowledge and understanding is sparse, it's varied. We're trying to close the gap around that. Here you see the students, after we had given, well, they're students, but they're really law enforcement and prosecutors, we gave them certifications to showcase that we are imparting that knowledge. And the lady in the glasses, that's our director for our public prosecution. So there is a huge need from a law enforcement perspective, but also from a public perspective on what we need to do in order for us to address and ensure that we are mitigating crimes specific to cyber. Our next slide really is, we also look to imparting knowledge between the different countries. So we have judges that come in and bring them and they participate in sessions for judges from Kenya. So we had that cross section understanding, because as everybody knows, transnational crimes do not have any borders. They're across the board. And we're really trying to ensure that when you have a situation like a cybercrime or anti-money laundering, that they have relationships that exist between the attorney generals as well as law enforcement individuals. So I know we're running a little short in time, but I'd like to leave you with some information that allows you to understand where and how you all can take knowledge of what Mark and I have presented. Next slide, please. The first one is we are a mobile first economy. I arrived here last week. I had been out of the country for over 9 months because of COVID, so I had to get a new SIM card for my phone. When I went to get my SIM card, they took my passport. They took pictures of my passport on a mobile. I was very nervous. They took a picture of me, and in the back of my head was, where is this information going? And I had recollection of working at Bank of America, where you had associates sometimes selling people's information. So we're not really thinking about all the risks. And that is something that when you're working in Zambia, or when you're thinking about ways that you can help in Africa, think about the mobile phone and the mobile phone impact on the economy, as well as how you have 11 million people using mobile money, and that's become a way of life. The next point that I will share with you is context is important. When we bring in our local experts, we really spend time regulations. Where do we have gaps? Where and how can we help them understand what has to happen? Last is increasing public awareness. I think you've heard me speak more about law enforcement and educating law enforcement, but we also have to look at the public. There was a situation in 2018 where an offer was made to several people of buying cryptocurrency. It was a scam. The public didn't know. The bank has not officially recognized cryptocurrencies. So a lot of people took their life savings to try and involve and engage in cybercrimes. And so there's an effort for us to continue increasing public awareness around the risks of not only giving information, but also on how they can protect themselves. And then collaboration is critical. We have several different stakeholders, and it is much more effective when we bring them together so that they can exchange information. And the one thing that I will say is that it's really foreigners that are bringing in this thought and thinking around cybercrimes, because they have a much more understanding of where the loopholes are with cybercrimes, and they're engaging Zambians, but it's really our foreigners that are bringing that whole aspect of how do you circumvent controls around cybercrime. And last but not least is my invitation from Mark and I to all of you to please visit Zambia. So again, I apologize if I went a little bit over, but just wanted to share with you some golden nuggets. Thank you so much.